Do you dream of adding your very own book to the collection of books that have already been written? Do you wonder where to start or how to finish? Does the idea of writing a book seem too overwhelming? Do you just want to polish up those writing skills or stay motivated? Do you wonder what to write about? Everything you need to help you write, stay motivated, and self-publish your own book is right here on one channel. And why? Well, because it's time to get over the writer's hump and just do it. You can write anything. Yep, you can write a book. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a book. I am so glad that you are here today. We have a fantastic show for you. I am sitting here with a new friend of mine named Shavonne Bulmer, and she is remarkable. She has a story that is going to knock your socks off. And today we're going to hear from her. She's going to talk about her writing process, why she wrote some of the books that she did, and just everything you could possibly want to know about her. Shavonne, welcome to a book. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness. So we had some issues this morning, even trying to conduct this interview. So what is today? Well, here where I am, it is the 5th of March, and Facebook is experiencing worldwide outages. And so normally I sort of stay in touch with all of my authors through Facebook Messenger, and I was not able to do that. And so we had to jump through some hoops to kind of get this done. But we're here and it's exciting.
Yes.
And, even in the face of challenges, and I think that's so apropos because your story has a lot to do with
Yes.
challenges. So I want to hear all about you.
So where to start? I think at the beginning is probably a good point to start.
Correct.
So I got into an extremely abusive relationship. Um, but how that all started, now firstly, what I want to break um, society's view of women getting an abusive relationship is that often they think, oh, she must have grown up in an abusive situation. And I didn't. I had a beautiful family. I have probably one of the two best parents a child could ever have. They still married today. They are totally in love with one another. I've only ever known love. Then I went off to university and I studied. And unfortunately, in my first year of my studies, I was raped by a friend who was supposed to be a friend. He held a knife to my throat and he had his way. And I didn't know how to let anyone know that that happened to me because I felt it was my fault and I felt I was dirty. And I didn't tell my parents about it until 4 years later. So I
Wow.
never got the emotional and mental health to deal with that trauma at that point in time. And and if you don't help that specific trauma or address that specific trauma, it festers and it becomes a wound that opens doors for people that are psychopaths or narcissists to be able to use you because you're the perfect set as a victim for them. So that is the backstage of what happened with why I became a victim or a person of interest to my ex who was abusive. Um, so I first got engaged to an American soldier. He came over for studying an exchange student program. I met him in my second year, lovely guy. But then he went off to Afghanistan and he came back not okay. And we broke off the relationship because he needed to work on himself because of the PTSD and he didn't want to hurt me. And so I had 98% of my wedding planned. I had prior trauma that I hadn't dealt with. And it sounds horrible, but the ex that I ended up being with was supposed to just be a fling, because you're
Oh,
young, you're 23, you just want to get stuff out of your system. And it didn't end up being a short-term thing. It ended up being a long-term thing. and the relationship progressively got worse. Um, it started off with being very controlling and very pessimistic, and then it started becoming more emotionally, mentally, and physically abusive, to the point where, I mean, one of the incidences was he had locked me in a cupboard for 3 days after beating me up. So he's held a gun to my head twice. So that's just an example of the extremity of the abuse that I was surviving. And when you are in that moment in the cycle of abuse, you you go into survival mode. It's very easy from the outside to be like, oh, you should have just gotten out. Yes, you should get out, but until you make that decision as the person of I no longer want to be in the cycle, and I no longer want to be part of this, until
Wow.
they've made that decision, there's no ways of changing it. It took me to have I was 34 weeks pregnant. He had hit me for the last time. I felt my little girl kick in my tummy, and I was like, there's no ways I want Alexia to think that this is normal. And if he's doing this to me, I can only imagine what he's going to do to her.
Oh, goodness.
And I waited for him to so he used to work away, and I waited for his next round of working away, and I planned my escape. So I basically escaped within the 3 day time period that I had. I hid out at I packed what I could and I hid at my aunt and uncle, and then my mum and dad came down to fetch me because they were in a different town to what I was then. And I moved to Cape Town. 3 weeks later, I gave birth. And because of all the trauma, I had Bell's palsy set in the right side of my face.
Oh,
So I
goodness.
couldn't even, I looked like I had a stroke. And I couldn't smile at my little girl the first time, her first day of being born. Um, I thought I had to let him know that she was born, and that's why he drove up and he was there the day that she was born. 4 hours after giving birth, he threatened to take her away from me.
Oh,
And
my.
that's when I was like, I told the nursing staff and everyone, I don't want him in my room. I don't want him anywhere near me. And he just needs to get out. And that's when we started the legal battle process. And that was 2 years of legal battles. But 6 days after giving birth, I went to a job interview and I landed myself a job with a half a face that was
Wow.
still not working. Yes.
Oh,
I still
goodness.
my icebreaker for the moment that for that interview was when they asked me what special skills I have. I held up a piece of paper like in the middle of my face like this. I said, "Oh, I can do two facial expressions at the same time."
You never lost your sense of humor.
I was like, you know, when the tough gets going, at least I'll find some humor in it. And I think that's I'm so grateful for Andre, who was my first employer, that he saw my potential in being able to deliver what the company needed a person to be able to deliver, but also that he saw that despite I had all the odds stacked up against me, I was still willing to put up my hand and try. And because of him employing me, I was able to fund my legal battles, which was a ridiculous amount of money. 2 years later, and during those 2 years, I was started therapy. That I was diagnosed with PTSD, extreme anxiety, and depression. And during the therapy journey, one of the releases that I found with being able to process information or process emotion was writing. So my very first piece that I wrote was in 2017, the end of 2017. It was New Year's, and it was the name of the piece was "The Phantom of Music,"
Oh,
and I wrote that what was ever was buried in my soul. I just, as I was writing, the tears were streaming and I was crying, but you know that type of cry where you cry from the pit of your soul,
oh,
where
yes.
where you just releasing everything where
Oh,
it's that moment where you don't have to be strong anymore. You don't have to put on a face anymore. My daughter's asleep in her cot. Everyone's doing their own thing. My parents were in the front busy watching their movie, but I was in my room. I didn't have to put on a face for anyone. And I just let it all out. It just
oh,
all came out.
goodness gracious.
And after that, I was like, wow, that really helped. And that's how these creative writing pieces started coming out. So when I started feeling really depressed, I wrote Canyons of Depression. Or when I was having a relapse of PTSD, I wrote Relapse. And that was really helping me to process what I was going through. And at that time, I had a blog. So I had these creative writing pieces up on a blog. And what I found interesting was that if someone didn't experience the same trauma, for example, of what I experienced, they could still relate to the piece because often I got the feedback I was able to articulate what a person was actually feeling,
Oh
what it
my.
felt like to be
Oh,
depressed, what it felt like to be sad, what it felt like to feel lost. And that's that was quite in the beginning of my therapy journey. And now, if we fast forward 7 years, where we are now, this is the first time where I actually felt safe to chronologically put down, step for step, what happened, when it
wow.
happened. And
Oh,
I've tied it all together with my creative writing pieces. So
oh,
as I wrote the story and I'm explaining how scared I felt at that point in time, then I'd put my punching bag piece in, or writing further on where I started feeling depressed, because when you leave an abusive relationship, your worst enemy is actually your mind, because you've been programmed for so long to think the way that your abuser thinks, and that you're not worth anything and you don't deserve anything better, that your biggest struggle is actually against yourself.
oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. You have this. It's and that's why so many women end up going back, because they lose the battle against their mind.
Oh,
um and and I highlight those feelings of anxiety and fear with my creative writing pieces, that when I was processing it through therapy. And that's how I wrote Get Out and Stay Out. That it's it's
oh,
it's my story. It's a chronological story of start to finish, the journey of getting out of an abusive relationship, what a person actually faces emotionally as well as mentally.
oh,
And and then, to bring awareness to what it, because obviously if you haven't been through it yourself, you might struggle being able to understand someone who's been through it. And if you're wanting to help someone, you would need to be aware of certain challenges that they would be facing. And then if you are someone that is in that boat or has gone through that boat, it's to bring awareness that you're not alone. You are
oh,
not alone. And even and in not being alone, you have worth, you are worthy, you are heard, you are seen. And
yes.
the amount of love that you will feel reaching out to women that have experienced what you've gone through, they're just amazing. They are just, I mean, the community that I've come across via social media,
Wow.
posting about my story and about Get Out and Stay Out. Either people saying, wow, you've finally been able to articulate what I was feeling, because often you don't know how to articulate it to your family. I had one reader say to me, they literally bought the book and gave it to their parents and said, read this. This is what I felt like. This is
Oh
this
my.
is what I,
Oh, that is
which
beautiful.
which is amazing. But the main reason why I wrote Get Out and Stay Out was, apart from the fact that it was amazingly amazing to process for me, but it's for when Alexia turns 18, because my husband, David, who's amazing, I met him when she was 18 months. He's adopted her, and
Oh,
we
how
have a little boy
beautiful.
together. Yeah, so I
Oh,
do have a happy ending. But I specifically wrote Get Out and Stay Out for the moment she turns 18, that she can make an informed decision of, does she meet him, does she not meet him, and that she has the truth. the truth of our story. And she knows age appropriate information. She's only 7 now. She knows that Daddy, who's David, didn't put her in my tummy, but she knows that Daddy adopted her. So she does ask questions. Well, Mommy, who did put me in your tummy? Then
Mm.
it's the man of the past. Why? Where's the man of the past? The government said he's not allowed to talk to us because we actually have an interdict against him, because he hurt Mummy. Why did he hurt you, Mummy? I don't know, my darling. Sometimes people are just
Mm.
programmed a certain way. But you know what? You were put in my tummy, and because of you, Mummy was able to save her life because Mummy loved you more than I loved myself.
Oh my
And
goodness. What a beautiful story to pass on to her.
thank you. And that's yes, it's I wrote it to help people and to help myself, but my main goal was to have the truth in a beautiful way for Alexia, for her to understand firstly the impact that she's had on my life, because if it was not for her, I would be lying in some shallow grave somewhere.
Oh,
Um, and because I've been able to walk this journey and get out and remain out, I've been able to help so many other women. So other women have been blessed because she's given me the strength to change my circumstances.
wow.
So in no way do I want her to feel that she's less of a person because of who biologically, contributed to her. Um,
Mm.
if
Of
anything, this
course.
is supposed to make her feel amazing about herself because she is my angel. She's my angel that came and she was sent to save me. And I believe that
Oh,
wholeheartedly.
what a beautiful story to pass down to her and to let her know the truth of why she came into this world. I've always thought that nothing ever happens to us without there being a reason
Oh, true.
in order to impact other people. So I want to share a little personal story of my own. I had two miscarriages in between my first two children.
I'm
And
sorry.
the day that I found out that I was pregnant with my now second daughter, I said, I don't understand this, God. Why would you let me lose, two pregnancies just to be pregnant again? And as I'm coming in the door from my doctor's appointment, having just found out I was pregnant, I'm angry, I'm
Mm.
scared, I'm frustrated, I'm all of those things. And my phone was ringing, and it was my neighbor who said to me, can you come over here? I'm miscarrying. And it was in
Oh,
that moment that I suddenly realized that the things that we go through in life really have little to do with us, but they give us an
totally.
opportunity to help other people. And so I was
Oh,
able to be there in a way that maybe nobody else could have because nobody else had experienced what I had. And during that
mm,
time in my life, God brought a lot of women into my life that were had either experienced miscarriage or loss of a child. So,
mhm.
I didn't go through those things just for me. We don't live in a
No,
vacuum. We don't live on an island. And
no.
sometimes, for whatever reason, we get chosen to have to suffer the hard stuff, but it's only so we can help other people out of it.
Oh, totally. I mean, and even when you are suffering, you're not alone. He is with you. I mean, just I wrote about it in the book. There was a moment like after my last abusive moment, being 34 weeks pregnant, where I lay on the bed and I just cried out and I prayed out loud and I was like, Lord, I haven't spoken to you in a while and I'm sorry, but I'm scared and I don't know what to do and I need to get out and I don't know what to do. And I, all of a sudden, it was the silence that was a godly silence, that even the crickets were standing on attention to the silence. And I heard Shavonne. And my cat, that at the time that was on the bed with me, cleaning himself, like had these big eyes, like, Mum.
Oh,
The big man upstairs just spoke, like,
he
did you
heard
hear
it.
that?
Hmm.
And
Yes.
that's when I knew I had to pay very close attention to what was happening because doors were going to start opening for me to go. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, it was supernatural stuff that just aligned to be able for me to make the moves to be able to leave. I mean, my dad at that point in time was working a very high intensive job the fact that they approved his leave to be able to come down to fetch me, the fact that I got here by, safe, not being induced into early labor, that I landed a job 6 days after giving birth. I mean, that's
Oh, no
unheard
kidding.
of. So, so he was a big part of my journey and still
Uh,
is.
oh, yes, yes. What a awesome testimony. I just love that. It's so beautiful. When you were writing Get Out and Stay Out, what was that process like? Because it sounds like you were using your writing to um, unburden yourself from some of the feelings and trauma that you had been experiencing. But when you wrote this particular book, excuse me, had you written an outline for it, or did you just sit down and just start writing? What was the
I
physical process like?
So I had my therapy journal where I had the creative writing pieces in it. And then I thought, how do I make sense of these pieces for them to understand why I wrote this? Then I thought, okay, I need to write about my journey from start to finish. And then I just sat and I wrote. So I first wrote the journey, and then I decided where to slot the creative pieces in accordingly to steps that I've done. So
Okay.
that's how I wrote. But writing from what happened was a bit of a trigger, because it was remembering things that I had buried. So
Oh,
it was very emotional. I mean, I actually went to therapy after writing Get Out and Stay Out, and I just gave the manuscript to my therapist. And I said, I wrote this. I wrote the story. I wrote it down. Because she actually said to me 7 years ago, I should write a book and I should write about the journey.
oh,
And she just started crying. She's like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe that you've actually done it." And I said to her, I'm exhausted. I I'm empty. Those were my words. I'm empty.
that will send you
And
through an emotional ringer, won't it?
yeah, so look, so I mean, it is a bit of a roller coaster of an emotional read, but it's because I'm raw. I'm telling you exactly what to expect. I'm not sugarcoating anything. So the process was definitely, it was the way I approached it, was the mindset that I had was, I need to write what needs to come out. And I was scared of what was going to come out because I've always been contained. And as I was writing and allowing it to flow, the emotions came up. There was times when I was bawling because I couldn't believe what I had survived. There was moments where I was fuming because I was so angry that he was willing to expose my baby to this. And then there was a moment of reflecting where I was like, wow, like, look how far I've come. Look
Oh,
where I was and look where I am now.
that is incredible. That is so
Yeah.
incredible. So, do you recommend for other women who maybe have experienced abuse or any trauma, anybody who's experienced any trauma, to write?
Oh, definitely. Writing, even if you don't share it with anyone, because right in the beginning of my writing journey, I wrote and I didn't share it with anyone. Like, it was just in a little book. And if I was too scared for anyone to read it, I actually burnt it. Like, I wrote it down and I
Yeah.
made a fire and then I burnt it. And it's just the process, because there's more than one sense that is being used when you're writing. It's your sight, it's your feeling, and touch that's being done. And I'm a type of person that writes and then I read, and when I read out loud. So you're using hearing as well. And there's many studies behind, the more senses you use, the more positive impact that it has on your body. So it is definitely a form of processing. It's a very good way of processing, because as you're writing, you're processing in first person and present and right now. And when you read back, you're processing what you wrote. So
Oh,
it's past tense. And
Yes.
it's almost got like a reflecting aspect to it.
Mm. Oh, so I've written a couple of books that nothing to the extent of your story by any stretch of the imagination, but one of the books that I wrote was called I Met Her in the Throne Room, and it's a journey of how I met a woman that is from the Philippines but actually lives in Hong Kong, and then I got to go visit her, and but these were all what I call God moments. There are other stories in the book of how God arranged certain things. You were talking about being able to get out the way you did, that your father happened to be available to get you, that you got a job six days later after giving birth, and so these are all about open doors that had happened for me, and those divine, I call them divine moments that we can't plan, but they get planned. And so as I wrote that book, I cried a lot during that writing. And they weren't necessarily tears of sorrow by any means. They were just, it was awe. I couldn't believe
Mm,
that these things had happened in my life. And I was so thrilled with
mm.
that. And then in 2021, I got COVID very bad, very, very badly. I
Oh,
thought I was going to die. Ended up going to the hospital, and there's just a whole bunch of things that happened to me as a result of getting COVID. And I wrote a book called A Journey Through PCSD, Post-COVID Stress
oh,
Disorder.
oh,
And
wow.
I wrote that. I was angry. I was angry that I had COVID. I was scared that I was going to die. I felt abandoned. I felt alone. I I had so much trauma surrounding that I wrote this in a very cathartic way. I was just getting all of that out, and I wanted so desperately to let other people know that, because at first I thought it was my fault, that I had done something wrong, that I got COVID,
Mm,
and 23 people in my immediate group of influence had gotten COVID. We all got it sort of probably from each other, and I had to come to a realization that it wasn't my fault, that I didn't do anything wrong, and I wanted other people to know that they had not done anything wrong either. And
mm,
so I
mm.
wrote that with the idea of helping other people. I ended up with long-term COVID. I still have health problems as a result
Yeah,
of that, and I never marketed the book. I didn't really push for it, but it helped me heal so much. It helped
yeah,
me
yeah.
in such a deep level. And then one day, I met a woman who was really suffering with some post-COVID issues, and I gave her a copy of the book. And she had written back and told me how much that helped her. That was all I needed. That was it.
Yeah,
That was like,
yeah,
I don't think I've sold maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 of those books. I haven't even looked.
yeah.
I never wrote it to sell it. I wrote it because I needed to heal. And the fact that I was able to share my healing journey with someone else so they could heal meant everything to me.
Yeah, and that's similar to Get Out and Stay Out for me. I wrote it firstly to obviously also heal, but secondly was for Alexia to have the truth reference point. And to me was, if I sell 10, if I sell one, if I sell 20, if it just helps one person, just
Right.
one, then it's done its job. And that's funny enough. And three people came to me after Get Out and Stay Out, and they said because of the way that I do creative writing, I should rewrite Get Out and Stay Out in a fantasy setting. And at first I was like, I don't know, maybe. And then a month later I was like, oh, why not? It sounds fun. And that's how Vengeance of the Serpent Shadow came along. But that was more again, Get Out and Stay Out wasn't to make thousands with
Right.
sales. It was
Right.
I have a message. I need to get the message out there. And
We're going
whoever it
to, I
helps.
want to take just a minute, not to interrupt you, but I want to take just a minute here and actually share Get Out and Stay Out on your Amazon account, because I want people to know where they can go to find this book. I think it's so powerful, and you have such a powerful voice and a powerful message to share with other people, that I want them to be able to find this. So
Oh, thank you.
if you've been listening to this and watching this and you are interested in Shavonne's book, I can't recommend enough. Go over to Amazon. It's really easy. Just type in "Get Out and Stay Out." You won't have any trouble finding it. And here it is. Here's the book. I love your cover. Did you design your cover?
Thank
Did somebody else do
I
that?
did. No,
I
I
love
did that.
I think my favorite thing about it is the simplicity of it all because we can get so wrapped up in graphics that we don't hear the message. And what a powerful message just in the title right there. I love that. That
And
is
I
so
think
exciting.
one of the reasons why I chose black was because you're coming from a very dark place when you are getting out of an abusive relationship. It literally feels like you're in the dark.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's brilliant. It is brilliant. I love the
Thank
title too. So yes, it's on Kindle or paperback, and you can just go on over there and find that, get out and stay out. But you started talking about some of the other books. We're going to go look at those for just a
Oh,
moment that you have. Uh, Vengeance from the Serpent's Shadow. Now, is this your fantasy novel that
yes,
came
that is
as a
my fantasy
result of
novel.
so some of your real life experiences are woven into this fantasy novel, correct?
Yes, yes. So I have Lady Serafina. She is my main character. And I wrote her in such a way that she is relatable to many women, not just me. And the journey in Vengeance of the Serpent Shadow is not 100% chronologically the same as Get Out and Stay Out. It's inspired, but the message is definitely there in the sense of if you're not happy with your circumstances,
Oh,
you
good.
have the power to change it.
Will you be writing a sequel to this? Is this a kind of book that maybe you could do another one, another series or something?
So the way I'm actually going to be doing my writing is I'm going to be doing so Get Out and Stay Out, and then the fantasy version of that is Vengeance of the Serpent Shadow. Then my next book I'll be writing is will be called Living Rewired, which I look at. I'm going to talk about living in your recovery journey with the rewired brain that you get from trauma, which is not easy. And then the fantasy version of that will be Secrets of the Shell, which is going to be a Greek setting, ancient Greek. And then my last book will be called Learning How to Fly, but then in brackets, First Love Yourself. And that fantasy version will be Dragon's Eye.
Oh my goodness. So you're weaving all of these things together. That is incredible. That is nice.
Yeah,
How
so
did you self-publish your book? Did you go through a
I
publishing
did.
company? How did you do that?
I'm an indie author.
Oh,
So
okay.
I did
Yeah,
everything.
that's
Yeah, I
wonderful. And
did
I like
everything
that because
myself.
that message right there is that anybody can write a book. That's what this whole
Yes.
channel is all about. Anybody can write a book.
Yeah.
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 We don't
No,
have
it
to wait for
is.
permission. You can just do that. Did you have somebody
No.
edit for you?
No. Well, my mum. I mean, she read. She did English, so I would send her some things to read, and then she'd say, "This is a spelling error," or "This is a grammar error," and then I'd fix it from there. But yeah, I mean, the message is anyone can write a book. I mean, on my author page, you'll see that my two daughters have each written a book because they came to me and said, "Mum, you're writing a book. We want to write a book." So I was like, "Sure,
Oh,
let's write a book." So that's what Peekaboo Little Dragons is about. That's Lila's
oh,
book. She wrote that. She basically would tell me the story and I would write it down. She came up with all the characters and their names.
oh.
And then Alexia's is a dragon's lesson on friendship.
Dragons.
And
Let's see if we can find that one. Just give me 1 second
sure,
here. We'll go look for that. A dragon's lesson. Here we go.
yeah. And she actually used that story processing what she went through when she was bullied at school. So
Oh,
in that story, she's actually teaching children how to respond to being bullied.
oh, how precious. And you've taught them then how to use that creative writing as an outlet for
Yep,
their own personal
yep.
journey. Yeah,
Yep, and that
that
all
is so
is
beautiful.
born from, and that's all born from Get Out and Stay Out. If I hadn't written that book, none of the
None of
others would
that would
be
have
there.
happened. Yeah. Oh, how
Yeah.
fun. Siobhan,
Yeah.
I absolutely hate to interrupt you because I am enjoying this conversation. I want us to get back to that. But I need to let
Mm,
our audience know that today's show is being sponsored by Victory Vision Publishing. And I want to take just a moment for us to go
no
hear a
problem.
message about them. So we'll be back in just a
Fantastic.
moment. Hey everyone, are you stuck trying to figure out how to finish writing or publishing your book? Well, let me tell you about Victory Vision Publishing. Victory Vision Publishing is there to help you cross that finish line. They have package plans that are tailor made just for your individual needs. They have learning opportunities where you can discover ways of overcoming some obstacles that you might have. Adam Fleming is a wonderful CEO, and they are a fully staffed team just waiting to help you edit, layout, maybe make a cover for your book. Go ahead and join their email list and check out some of the wonderful books and wonderful authors that they have already helped get published. Yep, Victory Vision is definitely the way to go if you feel stuck and just want some support in getting your book out to the world. You're only one book away from changing the world. victoryvision.org. Hi. Okay, welcome back. We're back now. Yes, go and check out Victory Vision Publishing for all of your publishing needs. So if you just want somebody to help you with editing or layout, those types of things, you can get a hold of them. They have package deals and they'll take care of you, whatever your needs are. So, Shavonne, tell us then, what was it like once your book was published, it was ready for people to view? What was it like in that moment when you got your first copy of the book?
I was in awe. I actually just, it was, you know, when that moment happens and you just like, la,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
that moment. And I just
Oh,
looked at my husband and I was like, I did it. I did it. It's done. It's here.
oh.
And we actually just popped a bottle of champagne and had some champers to celebrate
Oh,
it.
goodness. That is fantastic. Somebody said the other day that it's like holding your first child, that
It
it's
is.
that moment. And it is because you put so much of yourself into it and so much
Yeah.
energy and it's a birth of what was inside of you has now come out and here it is in black and white and you get to physically hold it. There is
Yeah.
nothing more satisfying than that moment. It's
No,
incredible.
and it's so rewarding, you know. It's like, wow, you know, my heart and soul are on these pieces, on these pages, and it's here. I can hold it.
Yeah. Did you read your book after you got it?
I did.
Did you?
I
Yeah, some
did, and I was
some of
and
mine
I
I
was like,
have and some I have not because they were hard to write and I didn't want to go back and read them again. It's like, oh, I'm done with this, but I finally have it. Yeah. Yeah.
oh.
Which one was
Sometimes it depends. Mm?
I was going to ask you, what was your favorite how do I word this? What was your favorite part of the process, I guess? Was it the actual physical writing of it? Was it what was it that you
The
really
release.
liked? The
The release.
release?
For me, it was the release because I mean, we all respond differently to trauma and how we deal with difficult times, but I have always struggled with bottling things up. So for me to write and to let all of that out, the relief of the release that I felt, it's almost like a pressure valve going off, you know, and I didn't feel like I had that pressure inside of me, like the soreness, it was out, if that even makes sense.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it really does. If you could leave our audience, I don't want to end this conversation because I think that you have so much to say, but we are starting to kind of go a little long here. If you could leave people with one message, what would that be?
You are worth it.
Oh,
No one can ever take away your worth. No one can ever make you, well, I know they can make you feel less than what you are, but it's not true. You are worthy and you are not alone. There is someone out there that has gone through what you've been through, who has experienced what you are busy experiencing, and they would be more than happy to give you the love and the support that you are needing because you are worth it.
Oh, that is such wonderful and beautiful advice. Absolutely beautiful. What has been the greatest challenge in getting your book out to people?
But well, the algorithm does not favor South Africans
Oh,
at all.
oh goodness. They don't favor anybody. Don't be fooled.
And Amazon is not really in South Africa yet. So I mean, if we order a book, it takes like 2 months to get to us.
Oh no.
Um, yeah. So, but there is talk of Amazon coming to South Africa, which would definitely help with book sales. But yeah, I suppose my biggest thing is that, the world of authors is so big and there's so many talented authors that have wonderful stories and beautiful messages to share. And it's like being in a crowd, trying to have your hand up, being like,
Mm.
pick me,
Pick me.
pick me to
Yes, pick me.
read.
So
I'm
marketing,
here.
marketing can be a challenge just to get your voice
Oh,
out there.
definitely.
Yeah. But I just believe that you have the kind of story that needs to be shared and it needs to be told. And hopefully we can get this
Thank you.
promoted for you. And I know that there is somebody out there, I'm sure there is somebody out there who's going to watch this program today and is going to get your book and it will change their life. I have confidence in that.
Thank
I
you. And
thank
if
you.
it's just one person I can help, that's all that matters.
It does matter. It makes a big difference because that person can gain strength and then share the strength that they have with somebody else. It
Mm,
absolutely makes a difference.
mm.
I thank you so much for being here today and for being brave and willing to share your life story with the world. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here
Thank
today,
you for
Shavonne.
having me. Thank you for
Oh,
having me. It was a pleasure.
the pleasure has been all mine, trust me. Listen, you have been watching a book, and we have spoken to Shavonne today. Shavonne has written just some incredible books, but most importantly, she has written Get Out and Stay Out. So if you are somebody who has been the victim of abuse, or you know somebody who has been the victim of abuse, or you're just curious about her story, I recommend you go over to Amazon and you find her book, Get Out and Stay Out. It's going to be an easy read, and you're going to really grow from it. I believe that. So don't forget to go over there and get that. In the meantime, thank you so much for being with us
Thank
today, as
you.
always. Have a wonderful day and God
You
bless you.
too.